Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flow.
When Flo flows, she flows in the know. Mind ruminates the rates. Shown them all, I heed the call. Seeing the rest, I choose the best. Sometimes it's ours, sometimes it's not. When the fox walks, is it called a fox trot? That's a real question.
Compare Progressive direct rates with competitors' rates. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Linda Summers. And these shows are all about relationships and all that encompasses. And the guest experts on the show will be providing you with information as to how you can become more connected with yourself. And what you just heard was Songs of Spirit by Ted Winslow, who is our guest speaker today. And the topic he'll be bringing with us today is the next generation in sound healing. But before we bring Ted on board, I want to give you a little bit of background information about him. Ted has over 25 years experience in the music business, holding a BS in music and audio engineering from the University of Colorado. In addition to his musical background, Ted runs Big Country Productions, a division of Big Country Publishing located in Colorado. He works with organizations and clients from around the world where he produces commercials, writes music, produces videos, builds custom internet TV station, records, and produces audiobooks. Ted is also involved in extensive sound healing research through electrophonic imaging testing, where he works with the effects of sound on the human energy field, which has validated his trademark sound healing technology, SoundSyncTech. Ted is a teacher in the field of sound healing with his best-selling CDs, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Solfeggio, and I'm sure he can correct me on that, Sound Healing from Earthly Frequencies, Aromia, Solfeggio Sound Healing from Divine Frequencies, Angelic Sound Healing, and Vocal Toning with the Angels. And these are all available on iTunes, Amazon, Tower Records, as well as other worldwide distribution networks. And with that, I'd love to welcome Ted to the show. Hey, Ted.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the Conscious Talk Radio today.
Oh, you're welcome. And what a beautiful intro, the Song of Spirit that you, we started off with, and just to really kind of bring in that energy and just that the peacefulness and, just kind of that beginning. So I really love that. It's just amazing.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I kind of want to dive into, I'm really interested in your story. Like, how did you get to be doing this information? I'm sure you have a strong musical background, which we read that you've been in music 25 years, but how did it really come into sound healing? Was that different for you?
A little bit. It was a slow progression through different aspects that started happening in my life. If you can imagine, I was a product of the 80s, so I was playing in some of the rock bands of the 80s, and I was a studio musician at the same time getting my degree in engineering, technical engineering from the University of Colorado, and then also playing in a band where we were entertaining or, trying to get the ear of the record companies at that time so that we could get a contract with them. So it was like a bunch of different stuff. And back in that time, it was a wild time in the music industry. It was kind of like the Wild West as we were all kind of paving our way through L.A. here in New York and whatnot. And I started coming to the realization that when I was coming off the stage at night with 100-watt amplifiers that I couldn't sleep. and a lot of fellow bandmates were doing different type of substances to kind of help get them to, they had the same problem. They couldn't relax either when they were coming down. And so I was studying a little bit of sound healing through some of my studies, was studying some of the ancient composers, because I also studied music too extensively. And I started coming across different tunings and frequencies, such as through the classical and the Baroque era, which was like Haydn and Mozart. And so you can imagine these long-haired musicians with tattoos and bracelets all hanging off. And I'm like, hey, guys, I got a great idea. Let's try a little sound healing frequency with this. Right. And as they just kind of looked at me with a cigarette deadpan dangling out of their lips going, you're crazy. Exactly. So I kind of kept putting it together, and I was listening to some of the music that was out there, and I'm like, they're missing something out of it, and I couldn't figure out. And of course, it had to do with a lot of the frequencies and the tunings, which I can go into. But that more or less is how I got into pursuing it, and just my love for it. It instantly changed me. I was in the process of putting out another rock album, and these frequencies started coming. I'm getting woken up in the middle of the night with all these messages, and literally it just started taking off from there. And in fact, there was one point I'm walking through a trade show, an international trade show, and I hear this crystal bowl being rung throughout the whole show, and I had to go find where that sound was coming from. What was that sound? I'd never seen a crystal bowl, and so I went after the crystal bowl, and then I had to go buy a whole set. So that was kind of a part of the journey. And then what locked me in is I had a message to go on a spiritual journey. We all have spiritual journeys. Yeah. And I was getting out of the shower. I looked at my wife and I said, I've got to ride my motorcycle to Alaska. And she looked at me like, are you serious? So I went on a 5,000-mile motorcycle ride, and as I was going there, she got a message that I had to stop off at the shrine of St. Teresa, which is in Juneau. So, and there's no roads in or out of Juneau. And I got on a boat, ended up tying my motorcycle to the inside of the boat, getting over into Juneau, and had an epiphany while I was over there at the shrine. And it was raining. Long story short, it was raining. I couldn't go out. I stayed in the hotel room, was worried I was going to miss the boat. Next morning, the sun comes out. I make it over there. I walk a labyrinth, and just this feeling overcame me that was just bliss. Came home, and that's how I wrote my first album, Solfeggio.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. Well, so I have a question for you, because was there any type of spirituality that you had been seeking? I mean, I know with the music and coming off and then, feeling like, okay, kind of diving into other music and stuff, but, like, was this something that was typical in your life that you would hear this stuff? I mean, did you think you're going crazy in the middle of the night, you're waking up to these frequencies, and then you get this message of going to Alaska? Like, I'd be like going, are you serious? Like, I'm really going to go to Alaska? Like, what? Like, what's there, So did you have any of these questions?
No, I wasn't seeking anything. All I really cared about was being a guitar player. And it's funny because though I play a lot of guitar on my albums, it's a lot of compositionally driven. And my main background is working as a producer and an engineer. I've been fortunate that I play every instrument, but I always wanted to be a guitar hero. And kept pushing that, but it was not to be. And so, I started getting these messages, and I'm like, I am crazy, because when I came out with Solfeggio Earthly Frequencies, there was nothing like that really out at the time. And I'm like, what are these frequencies coming to me? And then I started getting numbers, and I'm like, well, what are all these numbers? Well, they're all harmonic related equivalents inside of the music. And so if you do, for instance, 528 is going to be in the key of C. There's a whole harmonic relationship and key signature that deals with that. And if you go to the key of frequency of 432, which is going to be the key of A. So there's different steps and intervals, different pitches. And that's what separates this music so far apart. And I mean, again, I wanted to be a rock hero, but it's just it starts coming out of me, and it's amazing because I'm finishing up with my 14th album right now. So it should be out in like the next couple of weeks. I'm mastering it right now. And I've got 2 other albums that are now kind of coming through that I'm also practicing for recording. So it's coming in so quickly. So I'm kind of glad this took the turn of where it is to enjoy this and embrace it, embody it. It's changed my life so much that now I'm no longer at the point where I can't come off the stage and not sleep. I'm now able to put my body into a whole kind of healing. And through that, it opened up so many other doors with people I got to meet and in scientific studies behind the music.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we start our path and we begin that path, the doors just sort of open. One opens after the other, and we really don't know what that door leads to because it's just the unknown, but it just kind of it's like a flower unfolding. So cool, so cool. So when you talk about separate things, because you were saying that, well, first my question would be like, why do you record all your music in separate things? Is that what you were referring to just a bit ago on the separate things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned something about, can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So with recording of the music on the separate things is the opportunities that opened up that when I could feel and hear what it was doing. And the reason that's kind of coming through, we lead our lives so that our program that we get up in the morning, we have to go into work for 8, 9, 12-hour day. Now anymore, it's like 2 jobs we have to go through and work. We don't get much appreciation for what we're doing because supposedly that paycheck that we get is supposed to be enough, and that's the. But we have the bosses complaining at us, coworkers that are maybe not happy with us. We're not getting as many attaboys as we probably should. We come home, we turn on the TV, and everything is what. So when I talk about frequencies, all my music's recorded in different types of hertz. So, for example, if we see colors out there, reds, blues, and greens, they're all different frequencies. And that's the way that I now view music, but it's only going to be for our ears. So everything pretty much industry standard-wise is recorded at 440 hertz, which is what the media plays on top of everything. Now, my studies that I've been doing shows that frequency, which is A above middle C, is a dissonant frequency. So if I could play an A chord at 440, and it'd be much more dissonant sounding to the ears than if I did it in 528, which would actually be A minor in the key of C. And I won't get into the theory of music. I know people are just like, oh, come on. and so then you got the family drama that's happening too throughout that day. So we're programmed with fight or flight because that music is all dissonance. We're either upset that we're fighting back or we're upset that we're like, I just can't do this. I got to go somewhere else. Where does our body come into getting back to its natural state with nature? We all know that it's good to go outside and get the vitamin D, seeing the different colors. And so all of these different frequencies, when I started recording them, and knowing that they were much better for me than what I was used to with all the 440 stuff that's around, I was able to then meet an inventor who invented one of the electrobiphotonic imaging systems. He's a doctor, teaches in Russia, the University of St. Petersburg. And so I got about $20,000 of equipment that I use for doing scientific studies, which are all on my website. So now I'm able to show people what it can do for us scientifically, as well as they'll be able to know when they listen to one of my albums and what makes it so much different than the past sound healing and other sound healing albums out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to kind of go back because you mentioned 2 things that I think if the listeners are listening, they may not understand. And when you talk about the 440 hertz, like when they're watching the TV and that music is dissonance, what do you mean by that? Like, what does that mean? Because, I mean, we know that we're being programmed daily by the TV, by the radio, and all that stuff. But how can you explain that to them where they can kind of understand that in a way that what that means?
Okay. So we think of harmony where you have everything that sounds pleasing and beautiful to the sound, and a four-part a cappella, a quintet or something. When you have something in dissonance, it means that it is contrasting against each other, and it does not sound so pleasing to the ear. So it creates tension, so to speak. So it's, in musical terms, if you're playing a minor second, it doesn't sound like it has resolution if you're playing a third above that of a root note. So it creates friction. It's like when you walk into that room and there's one person, and maybe like at a party, maybe I'm sure somebody's experienced it somewhere. They've walked into a party and there's the one person that looks like they're really upset. You can see it visually on their face, and they just have a lot of distance, like they're about ready to come undone. Instead of being happy and enjoying the atmosphere and patting everybody on the back and saying, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Oh, we're all just here in a higher vibration." And in fact, historically speaking, it's kind of ironic how we came to this. So let me back up just one step further on that. What that means to the listeners is that when we sit down and we tune, you have an orchestra that's going to tune up before a ballet or a performance, or a band is going to tune up their instruments before they go out and play. They all tune to a tuner, which is at that 440 hertz. Ironically enough, you think of a lot of the great bands, which are few that have really stayed together, they've all split apart. And I know that time kind of like tears people apart, but a lot of them had some brutal fights because they're night after night, they're tuning up at 440, and, I can imagine kind of going after each other. The John Lennon and the Beatles did a little bit with 528, and it's starting to come out a little bit more now as well. But it originally started back with Haydn. He started tuning his claviers or harpsichords and pianos to a 444, I believe was the tuning, and he used it down to 432 couple. Bach had the well-tempered clavier, which is a whole different type of tuning as well.
Wow, that is crazy. So do you think that a lot of musicians know the effects when they're tuning to 440, like what really happens? It doesn't seem like they would unless they're tuned in, you know what I mean, like awakened in that sense.
Right. No, because they've been programmed for that.
Right.
And it kind of goes back before World War II broke out. Joseph Goebbels was a Third Reich minister, and he was at a conference in England, I think, with the British Standard Institute, and he had said it's of utmost importance that we make all these universal tunings for our instruments at this frequency, which is a dissonant frequency. And it's just like what you said, it's so bizarre to think that the greatest ears of the world were coming out of England, Vienna, Europe, and the United States was such a baby through all of that because we kind of came in at the romantic, not the romantic period. I guess it was a romantic period in music to develop from there. And so no, they didn't hear it. So everybody just sits down and tunes. They just automatically take it for what it is. It's hard to conceptualize. I know I didn't until I started. When I could hear it, I had to dive into it to figure out what were these numbers, what were these harmonic values. And interesting enough, we'll call him the godfather of music, but Pythagoras, which was back in 5th century A.D., was walking along in whatever town he was in at that time. And this is a man who was like through Egypt, Assyria, Greece, Mesopotamia, Babylon. And he had many studies. And he was going through a town, and he hears a blacksmith hitting on an anvil. And he starts hearing these resonance of these pitches that start to come out. And starts calculating his mind. Now, he's an astronomer, mathematician, and now he's hearing the frequencies as well with the music. He goes home, he builds a monochord, which I imagine is like the first guitar, but only one string back in its day. And he starts playing with little pitches on it, and he now realizes where the intervals are on these pitches, and he starts mapping them all out. So that's kind of where it started, where I could trace it back, the furthest back to.
Exactly. Now, what's your thoughts on the 528 hertz? Because they say 528 is really where we're really supposed to be listening to music.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that a lot of the other hertz, 528, yeah, it's the frequency of love. So on my first album, From Earthly Frequencies, it was called Love and Passion, and at 528. And I believe Russian scientists started showing that they're using that frequency to help repair DNA, some of our DNA. And that's one of my favorite. I like 432, which seems to be like a universal frequency. And you think that this whole universe is really made up of energy. Was it Einstein said in 1905, he came up with the law of energy, and there's the law of lift that makes airplanes fly, and we have the law of gravity, and he came out with the law of energy or vibration, and states that everything in the universe is all in a vibration of energy.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we've begun to really harness what we can do with frequency.
Exactly. I think we're moving in that direction, but we need people like you to kind of awaken that and to kind of show us, what to do and how to do that. You know what I mean? So I think we're beginning, the sound healing is so, it's being more talked about, with the crystal bowls and just different sound healings. But I love this because I really want to dive into the next question of, you talked about also how about your music helping to raise the vibration, to lower stress, and to energize you. So What are you using? Is it the frequency that you're using to do that? Because I noticed in some of your songs there's a lot of different instruments as well.
Yes. It's the main frequency and the key signature that I'm recording in for that particular track. So we'll just stick for the topic of this, like the 528. So I'd calibrate the instruments that are to that, and each one is going to have its own characteristic and color that will still be inside of that. And that's what I like about using the many different instruments, because if I played my guitar, everybody would be like, well, that's great, but he plays a little too much guitar, and he plays a little too much piano. And so it's calibrating the instruments to bring the color out of that composition, which is what it's based on. And it does. I had as far as relieving stress, I had a firefighter that was on ground zero at 9/11, and he was down there for 15 weeks, and had a hard time dealing with the issues. And so he was on prescriptions and meds, and he started listening to my music, and it started putting him back into a harmonic balance. We're entrainment. So it's basically what I'm doing is I'm entraining your subconscious through a technology that I've developed that I put into into that as well. Though I do the compositions in a frequency, I developed a second aspect to all that called SoundSyncTech, where I'm the first one to be able to put theta frequencies that are calibrated to that 528, as well as alpha frequencies that are going to be calibrated into there with the 528 too. And it's through that it's entraining the subconscious mind so that the ego can't resist the music when it listens to it. And then the body's getting that dose of that frequency that's going to help to be able to negate or, neutralize whatever the other frequencies you've had from the daily activities.
Right. So do you think it's because when the music's playing that you mentioned that the ego can't resist, it's like kind of like it just kind of falls away because it's just a feel good? It just feels like it would be a really feel good, like it would be very soothing for the soul, for the cells, and in your whole body, really. Right.
It's totally, it's raising our vibration. It's allowing us to connect more to oneness. It's bringing us back to that place of peacefulness. It's getting us away from that dissonance of the 440 or whatever fight or flight activity that we might have heard throughout the day.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, why would someone that's listening say, well, why would I want to raise my vibration? What does that even mean, and what's the purpose of that? How does that benefit me?
Well, it's going to be able to take you the first thing it's going to be able to take you into is a combined theta and alpha brainwave state, which is going to be in training the body so that we do get into that area of peace and relaxation. Our bodies are going to be made up about 75% of water, and so it's going to respond to this entrainment immediately. Because at that stressful area that we are in, stress causes disease. It's already been proven it causes a lot of disease, angst. It breaks down our immune system. It's just not good. And having anger is something that we really don't need. And with raising with all of our consciousness to a higher level.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, how can people get a hold of you? And because I know you said you work with people and organizations and stuff, so how can someone get a hold of you? And we'll have all this on the video as well.
Okay. Everybody can get a hold of me. The best place is to get a hold of me is at my website, which is tedwinslow.com. And subscribe to our newsletter because we're always doing promotions like this next album that's coming out. We're probably going to have a quick promotion on that one, which is going to be great. The other place to get a hold of me, Twitter, I'm at Ted Winslow, and then I'm on Facebook at Solfeggio Sound Healing. So, and in fact, what I want to do is give the listeners, so as I talk about this in the scientific studies, you'll see I've got videos of scientific studies that we've conducted showing how this can affect things. We've got a new one that's coming out that shows a plant with 440 music as opposed to with one of my tracks off of my new album that we're putting together too. But you can get a free digital copy of my Angelic Sound Healing. It's my one of my Amazon bestsellers. By going to the store on tedwinslow.com and check it out. And in the checkout section, there's going to be a coupon code where you could just put in radio, RADIO, so it zeroes out the balance, and you'll be able to download that track or download that album.
Okay, and that's just for the listeners who are listening to your interview. Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I have one last question to ask you. So what's one thing that you found on your journey that's really helped you and shifted you on your path and really kind of awakened you? What's one thing that you could give the listeners? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of things, but
the one thing is just how my health has completely changed. I noticed a big change with my health. I noticed that I now go to bed at a normal time. Ironically, my kids never want to sleep. They used to listen to my albums, and now they don't have a problem sleeping. So it really balances out a lot of aspects of my life as far as stress, sleeping, being relaxed, and my health. I don't get sick.
Wow. That's amazing. I love it. Well, there's so many gems that you gave us today that I never really knew that, like the 440 hertz that the TV, which I haven't watched TV in over 8 years, but just people, that's really so good to know that people are wondering, why do I feel so horrible, and just the musicians alone, wow, you could even just be letting musicians doing their talk with musicians and letting them know, hey, don't be tuning to 440, it's just, and to be able to raise our vibration, to lower our stress, to energize us for health issues, and you're doing something very, very different than anybody else, so it's just awesome. I love it.
It's kind of like Dr. Emoto, a best-selling author of Hidden Messages in Water, how he showed angry words can affect organisms such as hate and fear. I believe he called it microcluster crystallography. And so that's when I started playing with it, it just kept spiraling into something new and spiraling into something more, and more songs came in. I just felt the need to get this out to the public. And when you have an album like Angelic Sound Healing that's so beneficial and changed so many people's lives, and I can give that away for free to give people a taste of what this is and still be supported with my other albums, it's meant to be.
Absolutely. How beautiful. And really just, thank you for, taking on that, hearing this and going, oh, I'm going to seek, I'm going to wonder, and then just taking that drive to Alaska, because it really kind of just really, puts you on this journey that you weren't even expecting. And so I think that's a really good message, too, to let people know that really listen it's like the universe is really speaking, our spirit is really speaking to us to move us in the direction that really where we need to go, and it's just for us to be aware of that. So thank you for listening, and thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for being here. Wow. It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for connecting all of us together so that we can spread the higher vibrations and be a frequency revolution so that we don't have to be running around our daily lives like programmed, and that we can go out and all experience where our true paths are start to be meeting with each other.
I love it. I love it. Well, just, again, Ted, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show today, and I want to thank all the listeners out there who joined us today and the ones who will be joining us via YouTube. We thank you so much, and please don't forget to follow, subscribe, comment, and like us. And again, anyone that's listening, be sure to go to Ted's website, tedwinslow.com. This will all be on the video as well, and you can go to get the free, is it Angelic Sound Healing album?
Angelic Sound Healing. It's going to be the frequencies of the angels, 222-333-55, St. Michael, Joe Field.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. So don't forget to go there. So that's all the listeners for Conscious Talk Radio. And Ted, thank you again, really, for just doing what you're doing in the world. And, I mean, music, and that's really, it's just, everything has sound, and we just don't hear it, And so this is beautiful. And so I really appreciate you reaching out and just having you on the show today. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. See everybody later, and tune in the next time, and we'll look forward to hearing from you, and check out Ted's website. It'll all, again, be on the video on YouTube. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You are a mighty fortress of supreme knowledge. Progressive Direct has not only revealed their rates, but those of their competitors. If you were any more in the know, you would be drowning in, the know.
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates, because knowledge is power. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.